Good morning.
Good morning.
Is everybody happy?
Yes.
Well, I am. I would like to say this morning, I glanced across the room and saw a dear friend of mine, Margot Bay from the Lomacotsi people here in Oregon, who has brought back my people's school burning to the land, and they do a wonderful job. So he's in the right place doing the right thing today. And I pray he's got some wisdom for us as I hand this microphone to him in a little bit. But how welcome it is to see you today and the things that he does for our state here. I was with him a long time ago and we talked about the pool burnings. And we found out what they were about. As for instance, when I was a little girl, we had loganberry along a big line growing. Every year my dad, after we got all the berries and they began to die out for the year, he would burn them. The reason why he would burn them, that when they came back up, the leaves would be small and the berries would be big. The Lomacotsi people found that out. They did different things way up all over Oregon, to burning the huckleberries and these type of things. As I journey even over here, I'm very concerned about the mosses growing on the trees. And it's sad. It's really sad. I said if my people came back with this land today, they wouldn't want it. But we're not doing a good job taking care of our Earth Mother. And so I'd like to hear from you, sir, about what you've been doing, and people, let them know about your organization. Would you do that, Annie? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grandma. Good morning. I was just kind of trying to hide in the back and feel things out. You pulled me out, so I'll respect what you asked for. And you know, we're still learning. We're still trying to figure things out. We call it adaptive management in our work. You know, one thing as we try to figure out solutions is, you know, at least in this landscape where we live, fire was a huge part of these ecosystems. And people, First Nations people, they farmed with fire. Very sophisticated horticultural practices, in a patchwork across the landscape, taking care of the oak woodlands for acorns, taking care of basket plants, taking care of forage for wildlife. So we have inherited this landscape over the last 100 years where fire has been interrupted in a lot of places, not everywhere. And trying to bring science to the table and what we call traditional ecological knowledge from the people of the land here, and come up with a solution in ecosystem restoration. Because when we look at these small projects, they're really good, they're really great examples, but we've inherited a pretty big impact. And trying to grapple with how to deal with that impact is what we've been charged with. So looking at the past, we've inherited this present, and then looking toward the future is what we're trying to do, restore ecosystems and sustain the communities. You know, oftentimes, you know, I have my little garden and my little piece of ground, but there's these hundreds of thousands of acres above us that sustain us that often get put off the table. You know, these forest lands, these woodlands, and we tend to be focused on zone 1. But there's a lot way back up in there that needs our help, and that's what we're trying to do. We don't have all the answers. And then there's people that made their living. I know Grandma Aggie used to drive a log truck, and these communities had this boom and bust happen, where the big tree economy came in and large logs were removed off the landscape, clear cuts across the landscape. An industrial forestry model happened, and we've inherited that, and we've replaced that forest with monoculture and even-aged management, what we call it, tree farms, which burn really hot, and we've kept fire out of the cycle, so things have grown up really dense, different than what happened back in the day when the people were taking care of the land and underburning and using fire. So we have a combination of the ecological, the social, and the economic we have to address. And these communities that we work in, we work across Oregon and Northern California, across the region on projects. what we see is the big boom of the big tree economy happened. They impacted the landscape, and it's no finger pointing because we're standing on wood, we're standing in these buildings, we drive on these roads that used to be forests. So instead of the blame game, it's better to say, where are we at now? Because it built these communities. Ashland wouldn't be here without the timber industry. It's not to say we agree with how it was done, but we've inherited this landscape now, and how do we try to set the biological clock back? So we work in communities like Tilla, Oregon, in the Umpqua, and Bernie, Oregon, down in Northern California with the Pitt River Tribe, over in Chiloquin with the Klamath tribes. Even here in Josephine and Jackson County, there was 11 mills here in Ashland, right along A, B, and C Street. This was all mills. Ashland, because of the ash from the mills. That's what went on here. Not saying there's no judgment of how it was or how it wasn't, but that's what happened. So these communities had big tree economy happen. And then when the forest got liquidated, the communities got left behind, and industry kind of moved on. So what you see in those communities is the unraveling of the social fabric. You see domestic violence, you see alcoholism, you see crystal meth. You go into these communities, it's not Disneyland Ashland. It's communities that really depended and made their living out of the woods. So instead of cutting that out of the equation, how do we make that relationship where the people can get back to work and do something positive for the land, what we call restoration forestry or ecological restoration. It's very controversial. I know not everyone agrees with it. Not everyone can get behind it. But that conversation has to continue. We have a project up here in the Ashland watershed that we've been involved with, and I've been involved in that for 21 years at different iterations of that project, and trying to do exactly what Grandma Aggie's talking about, manage that watershed for ecological benefit. And we're going to have temporary impacts for a long-term gain. We do fish restoration projects, and we try to replace culverts, and we try to recontour streams. We use big machines. We have to kind of impact the vegetation. We have to move things around. We have to, be a little heavy-handed to get there, to recontour those streams. And for the first 10 years, 5 years, it's going to look a little raw. But the snapshot in our biological window is usually short. We have to be looking at things 30, 50, 100 years down the road. So our organization, we're trying to restore those lands and work with organizations like Klamath Wildland Center on one side, and then we work with industry on the other side. It's a really difficult thing to bring people to the table and try to come up with a good outcome. So that's our commitment. Working with the young people, getting youth engaged, no child left inside, nature deficit disorder. We run youth programs across the region. Our most meaningful ones are in tribal communities. We can work with the tribal governments and tribal community to get Native youth back on the ground. We'll be running a program this summer with the Klamath tribes, one down in Pitt River with the 11 bands of the Pitt River Nation, and working with Aggie's people in Siletz and the Cow Creek, and hanging on to the First Nation wisdom, looking forward to the future, but that social, ecological, and economic, kind of that three-legged stool, trying to prop that up as best as we can. And like I said, we're still learning. So I just wanted to share a little bit because I was asked by Aggie, and she's been a really good advisor to our organization over the years. And getting that fire back is very meaningful, I know, to the Native people on this land, because it's been an element that's been removed. It was outlawed. It was taken out of the ecosystem around these village sites and towns. But I realize lightning strikes, and fire has its own effect on the land, and we don't want to get in front of that either. So we're not trying to play God here. We're just trying to be good stewards. Be good. Even the word steward isn't. We got corrected because that was kind of still dominion over. So we're trying to be good caregivers, ecological caregivers. So just going to share a little bit, and I'll shut up from here. And thank you for your time.
Don't know that Mark was the Probably doesn't know that. That's a local group. How many people work in Lobocopsy?
We have 50 employees.
50?
And we employ about another 200 around the region.
That's way bigger than when I checked in with you last. Yay. I just wanted to give a piece of news. Last night we had a keynote speaker here in Ashland, maybe some of you attended. His name is Nick Beckich, and he came down from Alaska. He's part of a lineage of government involved altruistic people. And he did give some great information about HAARP and climate control and various things, but one of the statements that I thought was the most pointed that he gave was that we have it in reverse. The government should be transparent and the public should be private. And I think that that thought should be held amongst all American citizens as the premise upon which this country was founded and our government systems were established. He also did say something about climate change, and which surprised me and I never thought of, and I thought I'd share it, which is that the oceans are actually warming up, not necessarily from the carbon footprint, but from volcanic action. 100% of volcanic action in the ocean, which is 75% of volcanoes are under the ocean. 100% of that heat is going directly into the ocean water.
One thing that also a slightly different context for contemplation is I've heard the people are angry about the corporate model, certain people driving that corporate model. And as we come back to the land, the thing that I've been contemplating quite a lot is not just healing the systems on the physical plane, but also healing the systems, kind of more subtle systems, how we think, how we relate to each other and so forth. So I really invite a contemplation whether or not cultural systems are divorced from nature. That the human behavior and activity, from a point of view that I've been studying and some people, is that even the corporate model is understandable within a natural context. From the desire of people to be safe, not having strategies to do so, and doing the best they can. So I would invite, instead of pushing up against the corporate model as in order to grow ourselves, taking an opponent, we can even let go of that opponent and make the opponent ourselves. And what's inside is manifest outside. So the corporate model is what's going on inside of us. So are the cultural systems that we're witnessing items of beauty that we can witness and enjoy, even the corporate model, even the corporate behavior? Is Mother Earth. It's all Mother Earth, from my perspective. And so I invite that contemplation that the more we can have compassion, not dividing ourselves in our own mind against other people who we would do well to have compassion with them if we really are in our place. Because in presence we can understand anything, and we can plan a future together. But as long as we have opponents, we'll never find the answer. That's my personal opinion. If we take the corporations and corporate model as an opponent, then the answer will elude us. That is the contemplation I'm offering. It's not truth. It's how do you feel when you hear me say this? Do we really want to push up against something, or do we want to go in the direction of our greatest enthusiasm? So I just invite to let go of this idea that we're separate from nature, that these cultural systems are separate from nature. It's exactly like mitosis, if you look at it, what's going on, the polarization in the world. It's just how a cell divides, if you want to look at it like that. So as much as we're witnessing biological processes, how do we go with biological processes is the contemplation. Not push up against other systems as they push up against us. Same thing. We push against them, they push against us. Resolve the conflict. That's the contemplation. Thank you.
Nana yat e abina. Nana yat e shuk ne. Good morning, all my relatives. I will be facilitating an indigenous ceremonial change process later today. At this moment, I want to define two thinking systems and a reminder, a suggestion and a reminder. There are two thinking systems. They are from consciousness and perception. So, from our consciousness and our perception, reality is relative to our perception. So from our consciousness to perception, reality is relative to our perception. There's going to be conflict because everyone is going to be fighting for their rights, their religion, their belief system, their opinion, their theory, their philosophy, from their perception. And that's perpetual conflict. People will polarize into for and against, right and wrong, and good and bad, which is dualistic thinking, compartmentalized thinking. And then there's no spiritual morality. So, indigenous tribal languages are existing today for two reasons: acknowledgement of Creator and creation, and our balance and harmony with Creator and within creation, and also gratitude, appreciation and gratitude. You see the Northwest Coast tribes opening their hands this way, because with an open hand you can give a gift and receive a gift. And so the thinking system that our tribal languages are in is with conscience. So what is conscience? Conscience is our whole brain thinking. So it's built in. It's built into every single person. Our whole brain thinking is for the creative solution, the co-creative solutions with Creator, with self, and with others. Power within to have power with others. Power within to have power with others eliminates the need for power over. So that's why our tribal languages speak from conscience. And then we have indigenous wisdom and knowledge. So we're all indigenous people. There are people who think they are industrial and who think that a corporation is a person. But that's self-delusion and illusion. And I'm being nice. So consciousness, indigenous wisdom, knowledge and wisdom, and then reality is exact. I stood up. I didn't have to have faith or belief in gravity. The sun works, the earth works, the earth, the fire, the water, and the air really works. And from this indigenous wisdom and knowledge, then we have realities exact. The other one, it requires conversion. Looking at this object right here, the person across from me, when I say, do you see what I see? And she says, no. And she asks me if I see what she says, and I say no. And so we stay in our persistence, and then our resistance, 2 levels of change. And the only way is conversion. Take away and replace. And that's what happened to us indigenous people. Take us out of our sacred self and our sacred place in the universe and replace it by a deficient self-image in which some external programming, conditioning. So I'm asking you to remind you to remember that we can reframe, as I said yesterday morning, very briefly, reframe. We cannot reform anything morally, ethically wrong. And win-lose is no win for everybody. It's morally, ethically wrong. Win-lose, destructive and death choices we have been choosing to this day. All the folly of all the empires to this day. And my question as I travel on an international level, why? And the young people, most of them are my audience, and usually not the conventional or the establishment. Because the young people, they get it right now. Life is yes and no. What we say yes and no to. So I wanted to start the day myself to say, stay around at the end of the day, stay around and listen to how we can collectively reframe our thinking. And because all change is telling our body correct information or erroneous information. Thus far, we have manifest war, hunger, poverty, disease, incarceration, homelessness, hunger, with the criminal mind telling our body wrong information through enemy creation. So this indigenous ceremonial change process will reframe our thinking to restore and return to conscience, indigenous wisdom and knowledge, realities exact, within the natural order, within nature, natural law, and then there's group consensus about what we say yes and no to. And then we have spiritual morality, meaning a reminder here for us to intend, to visualize, to affirm, to dialogue, to manifest, to motivate, inspire each other, to manifest the win-win, constructive, and life-affirming choices. And the way that we can do that is through our humaneness. You notice how I'm using my hands here? Mainly because in the Dene language, the neck edges, the neck and shlef is the Dene, Biaja and shlef, or the earth surface people, Belashla, five-finger people, humane being, people with the E, humane being. And then the Dene, Biaja and shlef, I am a holy and precious, sacred child of Creator, and Yehit. And so is each and every person. That's the fundamental basis of equality. So putting that theme for you for today and for tomorrow, and for when you go home, into the community, in your personal life, in your professional life, that humane being that is going to choose differently. Thank you.
You all. So we're going to take the next 15 minutes to get ready to meet the people in our sectors, find what sector you want to be in. You know, if you want to talk to some people in one, switch to another one at 11 o'clock, we will start. There's schedules in the handouts. If the initial questions and the following questions are in there, so those are a guide to what we're hoping that the conversation is able to determine. And I want to encourage everyone to have an eye towards offering supportive policy that supports ecology and social justice, offering this policy to our local policymakers. So as a support for them, we really can be a citizen think tank. We can look at these optimal systems. We can look at how we can implement them, what the finances are going to take, what the schedule, what the time frame is going to take. We can do that homework for our policymakers, and then we can offer that to them. And there's a number of different ways that we can bring that information to them. So I just want to suggest to everyone as they move through the process that they have at least attention, if not intention, towards offering viable policy, present-day policy to our policymakers so that we can get some of these changes implemented. Okay? And thank you again. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you. You all. So we're going to take the next 15 minutes to get ready to meet the people in our sectors, find what sector you want to be in. You know, if you want to talk to some people in one, switch to another one at 11 o'clock, we will start. There's schedules in the handouts. If the initial questions and the following questions are in there, so those are a guide to what we're hoping that the conversation is able to determine. And I want to encourage everyone to have an eye towards offering supportive policy that supports ecology and social justice, offering this policy to our local policymakers. So as a support for them, we really can be a citizen think tank. We can look at these optimal systems. We can look at how we can implement them, what the finances are going to take, what the schedule, what the time frame is going to take. We can do that homework for our policymakers, and then we can offer that to them. And there's a number of different ways that we can bring that information to them. So I just want to suggest to everyone as they move through the process that they have at least attention, if not intention, towards offering viable policy, present-day policy to our policymakers so that we can get some of these changes implemented. Okay? And thank you again. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, and just really quick, the tables are set up in such a way that we're looking for the moderators to sit at the rectangular tables. So that was kind of the concept. You're welcome to organize yourselves however feels right to you, but that is the concept. So we have forest husbandry, clean water, localized food systems, co-creative leadership, humane policy, green power, regenerative economy, self-healthcare, and in the middle we have the peace table with the grandmothers. So please, we're going to look at this format, we're going to see how it works, and we're going to have an opportunity to refine it. So please see how that functions and let us know how that feels for you. Thank you.
Really glad to see this camp.
Pursue. You have the right to pursue it. You don't have the right. You don't have the right to actually hold on to it.
Yeah, you just have the right to pursue it forever.
As long as you pursue
you can
you're
chase
okay.
that little carrot that's dangling out there, you know?
Right.
God forbid you find it. Or
Yeah. You're bridled back and hooked to that wagon. You ain't gonna get to that carrot.
Right.
So what is that carrot? I missed that part.
The pursuit of
The
happiness.
pursuit of
Oh,
happiness.
the pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
Okay.
You have the right to pursue it.
You know what? You know how do we get there? Stop pursuing.
Yeah.
It's the pursuit that keeps you away from getting.
Exactly. They cut that
People
middle
are
loop and
stuck
like,
in
"It won't work.
pursuit."
Let's get a new one.
Oh.
But that's just one facet. You know, sometimes, I'll tell you what, sometimes I do believe in these people. And you know what most time it is? Is the fact that
Oh. Didn't mean to stop the conversation. The water's running still, gentle and flowing smooth. That's good. Oh, didn't mean to stop the conversation. The water's running still, gentle and flowing smooth. That's good.
Let's get down to just straight down. Did you actually? Were you actually alive when that whole thing about, oh, let's save Detroit? See, you weren't alive. Somebody was making you back when we actually lost the woods and stuff like that. Detroit did not give a shit. Nobody gave a shit about the fact that this was how we made our life. Oh, but you killed the cars, and all of a sudden, you get to... I've done that one already. This great thing that, oh, we're going to save these trees. You know what? We'd be able to afford cars around here. Oh, and those log trucks. if we were actually allowed to work the woods, gee, I was one of those. So see those? Don't even run that by me. That it was all the attorneys, and you know what? When Detroit fell, oh gee, my God, let's try to figure this out. Why the hell did they not just go build highways? Why would you build highways when Detroit's dead? Why would you build highways in the West when you can't haul logs? When you set up centers where people can make money, pick up highway along the roads. Pick up the garbage.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, you've lost me too.
No, if you'd have paid people,
Can you say what's your point? Why?
Tell me, did that whole thing work out right?
You know, I wasn't there, so.
How much money did you make out of it?
It's not done yet. It's evolving.
Oh,
Yeah, this gathering is specifically about to discover where do we go from here. What are the solutions?
You're actually asking questions that are
Then actually give the people money that are actually wanting to work.
And where should that come from?
Yeah.
If the government was doing the whole thing, why'd they give it to the transportation departments? Why did they give it to the banks? Why did they not give it to the people that right here would sit here and go, I'll pick up that trash?
Well, right now, as we're just moved past the 11 o'clock time, we're now into the reviewing of current state time session. So the pertinence of current movement with relevance of past tense is now the primary topic. In terms of Detroit, since we were discussing that topic, included in one of the documentaries yesterday was the fact that in Detroit, all new construction is now mandated by the city to have a green roof on top of it. And so that's one thing that's happening in Detroit that's right now that's pertinent. Would we like to continue any other traction of what's going on now, of current in 2016 in February?
I've been seeing a move toward artificial turf. I see the city of Ashland interested in it. I just read that I think the Ashland High School athletic department has finally raised enough money that they can take the grass out and put turf in. Let me toss that into the pot.
Speaking of roads, has everybody seen that new thing with glass?
Yeah.
That's all like reflective and yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, that's fascinating
600
technology.
miles of glass on roads.
Yeah.
What country was that in? France?
That's something when I saw the guy that is attempting to invent the idea of solar panel growth.
Yeah, I think the Kickstarter's in New Mexico.
Okay, I thought it was in Europe.
Yeah. No, I don't. I mean, I think they have a little bit of a model of it, but it's not completely because it also has, helps you drive the car. It saves from accidents because it's all if the automobiles are made sensitive to the panel. It's loaded with all kinds of technology, and if they make it.
Require a pretty functional capitalist system to bring that to fruition. It'll require some large corporations, some major technology.
Oh God!
Lots of resources.
Plus,
Yeah,
they can't even
it's the same.
figure out yet how to keep roads up
Oh.
at the moment.
Yeah.
The current technology, that doesn't have any technology in it other than just keeping a road intact.
Well, this is a long way from ever being realized, obviously,
I mean,
especially.
speaking
But
of winter conditions and chains
Yeah.
and studded tires. And
but it's all the mentality. It's all the mentality of how we
We
operate.
need to get rid of tires first and gravity and that kind of stuff, and then just like.
Yeah, so then you're fighting the tire makers and all of that stuff. That's why it's going to be slow, because it's just like the. It's just like
Because
the.
I think the trucks are the
Yeah,
ones
we
that
need
are
to
wearing the
stop
roads
creating
out.
jobs for the sake of jobs. That needs to go first.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing, oh, it creates jobs, has fucked up the world. Big time. So that's actually what we're talking about, economy and regenerative economy, and to create ways of creating a living, not a job, not money, not media exchanging people, but actually a foundation of life for everybody with a social structure that is nourishing, that is reciprocal, regenerative,
Yeah.
that provides and promotes health in relationship with each other, in relationship with the environment, and to create the spaciousness that we require to have these quality connections, rather than chasing and running and pushing the completely dysfunctional economy that is in place. It needs a replacement, not a gentle restructuring. It needs a complete exchange of what's in place, because it's all geared towards economical advance. It's all geared towards accumulation, exploitation, extraction, linear movement. And the
I don't
concept
think
of
it's all
circular and regenerative is completely absent.
So even this word. So you're sitting at a table.
We
that
had
is-
another voice who expressed a desire to, if I may
Yeah.
invoke the concept of stacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the industry that I could perhaps even represent. I don't think has all the faults that you mentioned. We sort of perhaps glazed over a lot of differences in what's going on in this society, in this continent. Most of the items that I work on as a mechanic are pianos made before 1930. And these instruments were built with almost an infinite amount of attention by craftsmen. And something happened that they had to take hours out of the production of goods in a modern economy. And I would like to find a way to get the hours, get the attention back into what we're doing instead of speeding everything up so we don't have to pay workers so much. That would be a direction that I think might start taking us away from the problems that you were expressing.
I'd agree.
If I may, with the stack, did you have an expression you wanted to share?
Well, no, this is a regenerative economy, and what you were getting to in your conversation was that we need to get beyond the status quo, the way we, and actually regenerative suggests reviving instead of creating something new. And what you were getting to is we can forget about all that's happened. It's not that we'll forget, but don't give energy to anything that went wrong. Same idea as, not to push against anything, but completely create new, because everything will come post. Everything that doesn't work. And we have to allow it to come post. So in a way, regenerative suggests that you don't let it die, but let the new things really come in. So to actually even think that way is the first. So to have that intention of allowing a new creation to emerge within your own being, as well as in the dialogue, I was just
May I respond? I really like the point you brought up, because it speaks of quality over quantity. And we've lost a lot of quality in the process of the race, the competition, producing more faster. And that's true in every aspect of life, in every industry, in every type of education. The quality is lacking. And it's really, there's a whole emerging science, a qualitative science that really taps into the subtler layers of existence and creation. And it's a science of quality, and it's really something that's been completely neglected for the sake of being productive, having something to show for, having a direction for the funding mechanism that we are researching towards. Because quality is kind of like an abstract matter, abstract medium, and you don't really quite know what material results you're gonna get if you explore into those directions.
Preservation of our desecrated sacred sites and our ocean villages. I also teach ethnobotany, herbology, and permaculture design around the world. I work with the preservation of our desecrated sacred sites and our ocean villages. I also teach ethnobotany, herbology, and permaculture design around the world.
Perceptions, and basically that close. We are within 6 months to a year on anything localized versus something like a Bloom Box with Google and Microsoft and all of the funding. So we don't have that kind of money. If we had them in Ashland, it'd fund the university, but they're not putting the money into schools or communities of that equipment. I mean, as soon as we get one of those, it's a different story.
That's awesome.
So in the technology we're moving on now, I want to see us go back to steam. And algae is our green pellet, green coal that is continuously repeating itself within cleanup form, and it's going back to basic nature material that anybody can build open source for free. And I can give you the components as a class, a kit, or the unit, however you want to take the deal. So that's what we want to move toward, is localizing the projects, bringing them into fruitation, and letting everybody have it and duplicate it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's cleaning up the sewage, it cleans up the air, it cleans up all these processes by using the elementals of fire, water, earth, air.
And what your actual point was, what you were trying to get across, so we can take it from there. So what you were saying?
So my point is how I feel about it, that it wasn't so much about a bird and a group of people who were environmentalists as much as it was unsustainable practices. Because I'll tell you what, Judy Bari, she's like one of my heroes. And she got together, and not only were they protesting against taking trees, but she was actually going in and helping families when the mills would shut down. When the sheriff would show up and say, "Ha, you ain't got no rent, beat it, kid." She was there organizing, and she was not only there protecting trees, but protecting the families of displaced people, just like you, just like me.
And that's the key, is that the programs that the logging industry in Oregon became unsustainable. And when it was unsustainable and the shift began, nobody considered the humane way of helping the people of the state get a different way to support themselves, to retrain, remove, find a way to still be thriving in a different way, because that particular way was not working anymore.
Can
and
I
it
ask
never
you-
did work. It never did
You'll
work.
have to raise the pen or ask this question. No, I was just, how did it become unsustainable?
Clear cutting. Clear cutting's unsustainable. It destroys the land.
Okay, no, I was just asking
Yeah.
why you said it's unsustainable.
Why is it unsustainable? Because it was done in a way that
Because
didn't honor the
I've been
land.
up there and done it, I know it's not unsustainable, but I'm perfectly of the fact that you should not be doing clear cuts, killing. You shouldn't be doing them along I-5 or 101.
That is a piece, we're relaunching events that will relaunch on the summer solstice this year. And it's a massive event that has at its center a huge labyrinth ceremony. And the message of Earthwalk globally is for people to anchor in soul purpose and walk their soul purpose in alignment and harmony with the planet, which is it's the rainbow prophecy manifested. And then the events are like globally synchronized peace prayers that engage a labyrinth ceremony. And so we're cooking up the ceremony right now and looking at which we're trying to figure out the ceremony needs to happen the first one happened in a baseball stadium, and we're looking at which stadium we're going to use right now for the launch of the event. And at media partners and and it can, and what can happen, what we want to have happen, is have pillars all over the place, and communities can self-organize, and organizers can create a ceremony that's appropriate to their community. It launched for the first time in 2011, and I co-produced the San Francisco event. And we did a walk along the ocean.
So it's not a walk at the labyrinth.
At the core of it is a labyrinth walk, but the individual ceremonies don't have to be a labyrinth walk. Like we chose, rather than doing Grace Cathedral.
When my children were little and they were starting to school, I told them, if you want kindness and you want compassion, you want love, you want to have all those magic words, then you have to create them within your own self. So I can't give you those things, you kids. I can't give you kindness. I can't give you compassion and happiness and laughter. You got to do your own. If you want some from somebody else, then you better create it. And with that, I tell them, I don't ever want you kids to want anything out my car window. That's your Mother Earth out there. It's not a garbage place. It's her that sustains us every day with everything we eat and everything we need to live, and the clothes on our back. And even this car we're riding in come from Mother Earth. So all things are sacred, you kids. So you think about it. What is sacred, And I don't ever want you kids to grow up and be bullies. I want you to be kind and help kids and be good to kids, because everybody don't have love like I give you kids. So you give them love from yourself, and you teach them. You boys don't grow up to be bullies. I don't like you hitting on your sister either. That's not right. And so you watch how you behave, and if you want people to treat you good, it's how you behave to them. So you think about it, you kids. I thank you.
Of doing self-assessment and self-evaluation. So do you hear that?
I do, but
in that condition, when the person is using their deficient self-image, their criminal mind, and the pretense, people will destroy themselves and others to maintain the pretense.
It's a defensive position, yes, absolutely.
So there is no way to, in that condition, to do self-assessment and self-inventory.
Rationalize the work.
That is what you're calling the woundedness. So now let me just say something really simple, and then you can go on, and then I can go on to, is that love is a call for, fear is a call for love, because you're talking about what is fear-based. And then what you're talking about is that indigenous cultures have built in, which is through language and connection with the natural order, the harmony and balance. That's what's built in. So that's why it's not fear-based.
Right. But still, even within native cultures, there were still people of great violence, though, correct? That there was still war and there was still people, there was still conflict.
Every American that I talk to will always say that to me.
No, I'm curious.
Yeah.
It's a question.
They will always say that to me.
Yeah. I'm just curious.
Let's look at a continuum, okay? There on a continuum, yes, there are probably the Navajo people are were the most peaceful people. And probably maybe the Tlinkits in Alaska could be the most warlike, because if the Europeans the Russians came over and they didn't want them over there, they just cut off their head. So on a continuum, let's say that. Now, we were not a conquering people, so let's put that aside, okay? Because we're looking for the solution here. Right here, we're looking for the healing here.
Well,
so the healing,
So
the healing here, to just complete that sentence, is that fear, anything fear-based, you're saying, yes, we have people who are controlling the world resources through fear-based.
They're scared to death of themselves.
Fear is controlling. People are controlling the world resources through fear-based. So fear is a call for love. And they cannot coexist. So why are humane beings choosing fear? Why? That's the solution right there, because fear doesn't even exist, because the maladaptive emotions in nature, we're earth, water, fire, and air. Does fear exist in the earth and the water and the fire and the air? No, it cannot, and it does not. So it does not and cannot exist within us, but our criminal mind can call it in and tell the body wrong information. So when you know that, criminals know that, addicts know that, they go, oh, that's what happened to me. And their mind and their thinking is reframed and restored to their whole brain thinking and their conscience.
Yeah, exactly.
There's the answer.
Well, what I'm saying is that
for everyone, collectively.
The whole brain thinking can now be induced through some pretty easy technologies.
Yes, because it's built in. It's already built in. And when people think, when they think that they didn't, that it was somebody from the outside holding them in oppression and internalized oppression and the depression and immobilizing them, then they just go through the reframe and restore it in terms of, oh, I get it. And then what we have to do is support that and make sure that everyone has group consensus to support their choices, that they're saying yes and no appropriately then, and correct their thinking. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Can I add something?
Yeah. I just wanted to say, because we're trying a paradigm here, a shift, that, you know, if you read or studied the history of Western civilization, going back to the Romans and beyond that, it's all about conquest. It's all about war and conquest and building a military and all that sort of good stuff. And what we need to do is, you know, to stop that mental concept that's built almost DNA in the Western mind. I mean, is to change that is going to take the work we're doing. I mean, it's not like it's just going to be. It's not, and it's going to take a lot of energy focused on what we're talking about here, and we can do that. But it's so antithetical to the concept I was born with. Yes. You know, I mean, I bought the whole thing back in my day.
So why are we buying into enemy creation?
Yes, that's very good.
Yeah, the enemy within is projected, the war within is projected outward. So that's where the correction is.
So where is this enemy we're projecting? I think it's always been like in the global discussion we have, like with young people in social movement, is like they, the corporation, these powerful people, up to like this complot theory and the Illuminati, and so we project always, and we create an avatar for this enemy. And this is exactly the challenge now. We're not fighting anymore against like a king or dictator that is creating all these wars. Before, in the past, it was really easy like to blame the king. Right now, we created this avatar of the Illuminati, or different people have different versions of it. But it's really more complex, because now we're really responsible. We are the consumers. We have probably way more power than we believe we have. And we try to find an enemy that doesn't really exist in the form we. So we have to realize first that, and maybe stop like always blaming the government and the corporations, and saying like we are responsible. Of course, there is powerful people. There is people with a lot of power that we.
That village mentality going on. That's just how they grow food, and maybe, you know, educating and re-educating, getting some outside perspective would help.
You probably know about all the different bee organizations in the valley, right?
Yes.
So Talented Bee City,
Yes.
and Ashland and Phoenix now,
Right.
and then
But you know, even that, I was
Pioneer
at the
Project.
library and I'm like, why don't we have this Top Bar DVD already? Like, it's a Top Bar. A man wrote a Top Bar book on, because we have Top Bar, and and the library doesn't.
Top Bar
It only
Hives.
has like one copy of the
It's a
book.
kind
It
of
doesn't
hive.
have the DVD, and it's like, yeah. And so it's like, why don't we have this? We are the Bee City. We should already have 5 copies of this book in this library. Like,
information and resources.
so I'm gonna buy it and give it to them.
The Constitution under the Fifth Amendment takings power, but if the government does that, they not only have to compensate you, but they have to be doing it for a public benefit, and that's what the law says. So it's really hard to find a public benefit and like destroying all these resources, and also the fact that who is this going to? Who's profiting off of this? A Canadian corporation, not even going back into our pocket. So there's not a lot of benefit to Oregon. And then, like I said, like I mentioned before, with the explosions, safety is a big concern. And in rural communities, the safety, the levels of safety have been lowered for what the safety qualifications are for this project in rural areas.
Where did you say pressurize the gas?
The safety regulations are lower for rural areas.
So they pressurize the gas at the coast?
Oh, they're liquefying the gas at the coast. They're compressing the gas on Mullen.
So it would be a compressed gas.
It would be 232 miles, and then whenever it gets to Coos Bay, it is liquefied. And then it's put on, loaded onto tankers, and then shipped overseas.
So how does it get from Colorado?
There's already a pipeline that's there.
Pipeline from Colorado to Mullen?
And it goes through part of California, and this is just going to be built onto that current. They're just going to build another connection.
Was that built like recently, or was it a pre-existing pipeline?
It's pre-existing. I don't know how long ago it was
Not that long
built,
ago,
though.
like 10 years ago. And that's sort of, Malin's sort of a hub, you know, so the pipeline's going in different directions. It's important to note that this whole project was originally billed as an import facility, and everybody was skeptical, and they're like, no, you're going to flip the switch and you're going to export gas, you know. And then they just actually redid all their permits and said, you're right, we're going to export gas. As fracking became, you know, more and more commonplace in the Rockies, they flipped the export facility.
Sales. Everything. Sales. And when the logging industry took over, hemp became illegal because the logging magnates wanted the money. And so they clear-cut Oregon and Washington and California for the money. And hemp became illegal. And it's still very, very, very may be becoming legal again, but that was what our country was founded on, and it was killed so the logging could happen. So for logging to be sustainable, it has to not be used for everything under the sun. It has to be used for what logs are good for.
I coined that word in my master's level degree program. The word is situational co-creative leadership, the full term. So what that means, co-creative, first it means with creator and my conscience. Creator and my conscience. And then from creator and creation and my conscience within me, power within to have power with. Situational leadership means there's no hierarchy, patriarchy, matriarchy, there's no chain of command, so that when this person, the situation calls for his gift, he is the leader. And when whoever's gift calls for being the leader, that's co-creative situational leadership. See, so that's how our clan system operates in our tribe. We have a extended family in which everyone already knows that you can't have ceremony healing people to restore their thinking to their sacred self, intellect to their sacred self and their sacred place in the universe.
Maybe you can, when you my name is Andras, but who I am is, and who we all are, who we are as individuals and as a collective unit. I've come to the point of knowing that I am what I call a hardist. Hardist, I call myself a hardist in resonance. It's of course my own personal evolution to this point. It expresses that, but it is also a name that we can all call ourselves. Hardist is so, yeah.
Sorry. Takes a long time. 3, 2, 1. Action.
So who I am and who we all are is coming into question in this moment in time, and for us, for all of humanity, for actually all of creation. And so it's multidimensional. And who we are is at the very center of what is called the truth. What is the truth? There's only one truth. There's only one God, and we are all part of that truth, that one God. This oneness that we talk about, that's what it is. We're in one with life. Life is God. Life is a mystery. God is a mystery. It's all a mystery. And life is so precious. And when we look at life on Earth, with Mother Earth, the incredible diversity that is right here on this beautiful planet of ours. And that is the oneness. That is God. That is the life. And it's so magnificent, it's so pure, and it's so, when I say pure, it's pure in the incredible, when it's fully realized, fully revealed as to what this is all about. That the spirit, this oneness, the spirit, the God, this oneness, the energy of this oneness. It's where science and spirituality merge in this oneness, is the energy. The ancients call it prana, or chi as the Chinese would say. That's how it all comes together. So that's how we are one. And when you think of it, throughout the history of humanity, all the conflict has been created by labels, just by name. I'm a Jew, you're not, you're something else. It's all that separation. Now we don't have to go through all it. It's not just religious, it's just every which way. So it has been turned against ourselves. We turned those differences against ourselves. So what we need to do is celebrate the diversity, but come together in our oneness. Come together in knowing who we are. And that's why the name came up for me. It's hardest. Hardest is getting to the heart of the matter. It's the art of the heart. It's the art of getting into our essence, of knowing who we are. And that process I call heartistry. The heartistry of getting away from our ego-based mind and getting into our heart mind is the journey. And people call it, well, it's a long journey. Don't call it that. It's not a long journey. You can actually just let everything else go and come there. Say, well, it's so simple. Well, how do we let go? Well, it does start with a breath. It starts with a deep breath of taking all the energy, all the oneness in, and imagining yourself being totally united with the all of it. That's the oneness. Which is what this Eco Summit is really all about. It's about accepting ourselves to be part of that oneness. And from our oneness, accepting everybody else as being part of you. It's about seeing not only God in yourself, but seeing God in all the beings, certainly other human beings, but all the beings. Oneness.
That was awesome. I love that you actually gave the advice on the breath. People are like, how do you let go? And that was something I was really working on myself, breath meditation, and that's, yeah. Let me do it. I don't know why it's doing it. Give me a quick minute.
Would you turn my camera off?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll just...
It's in the back. So you might want to click.
Yeah.
Oh, I just did.
Yeah, you actually did it for me.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're...
Yeah, but just like an overview of breath, you as a breath teacher.
Are you going to use that? Or?
Yeah, I'm going to use this. I like this. This is the beautiful ones. Alright. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, the breath. You can actually say, the breath is all we are. When you think of it, you know, it's the first thing that we do when we come into this lifetime existence, this one here that we're enjoying at the moment. And of course, it's the last thing that we don't want to do, is take our last breath. Well, not everybody, but in a way, if we ever get to that beautiful oneness that we really are. So I can say that humanity is in the process of waking, different levels of waking up to that process, to that point of knowing that we are part of the whole and that we are one. It's very encouraging because that's what this Eco Summit is about. It is about that, about the oneness and about knowing that. But the breath work, so yes, I'm a Kriya Yoga teacher, and what is Kriya Yoga? Is a yoga of breath, yoga of life. So I started talking about, well, in our culture, we don't really know very much about our breath. And it's not only, the breath is not only about oxygen and air that we breathe in. That's how the physical body is satisfied. But it's through the breath, and how the breath, the process of breathing, which is done, you know, by our parasympathetic nervous system, and it's automatically done, we don't have to think about it. But the process of going from just automatically breathing to being conscious of your breath, and then through forms of exercises, ancient exercises, to connect your consciousness with your breath is the essential part of our life, and that is part of what I teach. I like to for this oneness idea, I like to use, most people know about the Casper the Friendly Ghost, and although the word ghost, you know, has different connotation for people, but we all can picture, visualize this creature that we call Casper the Friendly Ghost as something malleable and switching and changing. So as we can visualize that, and it's all, it exists everywhere. The prana exists everywhere. And it isn't in any more concentration anywhere than it's not. It's all over, and it's constantly bouncing around. It's the life, it's life force from the universe. That's what it is. So within our body and our nervous system, our mind, it's that connection, it's that harmonization of our consciousness and our body and our mind. So mind, body, and spirit connection is the balance of that, or is the balancing of that. That's what we learn through Kriya Yoga, is how to consciously stay with that process of continually balancing and harmonizing our mind, body, and spirit. And we have what is called the vagus nerve, V-A-G-U-S, G-U-S, not like Las Vegas. But the vagus nerve is actually the physical manifestation of our chakra system, our energy system. And this yogic breathing exercises, which are from ancient knowledge, that's what it does. It harmonizes our vagus, it heals our vagus nerve. Vagus nerve is the second biggest nerve in our body. And in the West, most people don't even know about it. It is, of course, the spinal cord is the biggest. And it has to do with all the functions of our physical movements and everything. While the vagus nerve is about our organs. It's about the function of our life. What's harmony, it goes to it goes to all of our organs and all of our glands, from the pituitary to the adrenal to all of the glands, and it harmonizes with our glands and our organs. It harmonizes our life. that is the essence of Kriya Yoga. It's harmony and balance. Living in harmony and balance with not only yourself, your sovereign self, but the universe, which is all part of it. So, healing the vagus nerve of humanity, like healing the heart of humanity, is the process of heartistry. And that's where we are as humanity right now. We're about to, well, I was going to say explode, but it sounds too violent. But in a way, like explode like a sparkling light into that knowingness and into that beingness of the oneness through our energetic connection. That our collective chakra, the harmony of all of our energies. And that's quantum physics, that's ancient spirituality coming together in the new flowering immersion. So, Namaste, which is the God in me sees the God in you. We're merging. Namaste.
Namaste. The hardest, you spoke a little bit on that. Do you want to speak more on that? Because you...
I come to find out in my self-search, in my self-inquiry stages in my life along the way, I've come to discover that our energy center we might as well. Along my journey on this particular life journey that I've experienced that brought me to this point in my life, after 7 decades of walking this earth and experiencing life all around the globe, definitely realized that there was something in essence that I was looking at, that I was looking for in my search, not knowing what I was looking for, but we're all searching and we're all looking for something. And it is now well known that we really just need to look inside, because everything, the whole universe is inside us. That's how it works. It's the microcosm to the macrocosm. It's the joining of the inside and the outside. There's no borders. But in this life, we get to be in this skin and in this body to capture this sovereign self. Not capture, but to call it our home. The essence of this hearth of our home within our bodies is a heart. And so one night it just came to me that where we are all one is through our hearts, our heart energies, our compassion, our caring. It's all centered in our heart chakra, if you will, but also in our physical heart. So this one night, this name came to me, Hardest. It's like the art of the heart. It's the art of living in your heart space, in the big word heart. Heart, which is like the feminine energy of compassion and caring. And it's what's been damaged in humanity, in our earth. And it's what's been damaged, it's what has damaged our Mother Earth. And in the outside sense, not only has our earth been polluted, but our waters, the air, and something we don't talk about, our minds have been polluted. So it's this mind pollution that we need to clear, because mind is so powerful, and our ego mind is a polluted mind. It's polluted with those selfish thoughts. So the journey from our head, from that ego-minded, selfish, greedy, all those words, but it's just an unawakened heart, unawakened mind. And the heart mind is what gets awakened in this process of artistry. So heart and artistry. Hardest is the art of the heart. It's the art of living in the heart. And expressing yourself only from the heart. It's expressing in a way of art, in a way of work, in a way of relationship, in a way of expressing yourself anytime when you do anything, anytime you say anything, anytime you express yourself, you move, anything is an expression. If you come from the heart with only one intention, for the good of all, that's being an artist.
Very good, with this section. Are you thinking any interviews today? Any interviews today?
Not particularly, but if something pops up, you know. It's already, you know, we've already
got so much.
Got enough. I mean, you know, this for this thing, for this Eco Summit for next year. I mean, I think, you know, probably something that's no more than 5 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah, I was probably, well, the attention span of most people on the internet is like two
So
to 3 minutes.
it's about collecting snippets here, snippets there, for no more than 5 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it truly isn't about how much we got. It's
not the quality.
It's getting the essence. Getting the essence. Oh.